is Neo.
The Matrix franchise is overflowing with amazing ideas and concepts. With their first Matrix film, the Wachowskis managed to distill their many influences into a singular, incredible vision. The final result was one of the best action movies of all time. Oh, and there were a couple of sequels too. And yes, while The Matrix Reloaded and The Matrix Revolutions might not have the most shining reputations, they still contain some intriguing ideas and some excellent action sequences. Because the Wachowskis are obsessed with filling their films with all kinds of secret goodies, there's no shortage of hidden gems to discover. Let's take a look at some of the things that you might have missed. Where we go from there is the choice we leave to you.
Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
During Neo's first sparring session with Morpheus, he has a brief moment of jubilation as he begins to realize the extent of his new fighting skills. As he grows more confident in his abilities, he smiles and rubs his nose with his thumb. But why? Did he have an itch? Is he trying to signal something to Morpheus? What does it all mean? Actually, this is Keanu's way of paying tribute to the man who inspired so much of not only the Matrix's fighting styles, but action cinema in general. Bruce Lee. It's not the only time Reeves references the legend either. During the subway fight with Agent Smith, Neo beckons Smith with his hand, a come at me bruh gesture that is yet another means of paying tribute to Mr. Lee. The Wachowskis have a clear fascination with numbers and their hidden meanings. It's something that pops up all over their Matrix trilogy. One of the biggest examples is Neo's apartment number 101. This is, in fact, a reference to George Orwell's classic novel 1984. In 1984, Room 101 is the place where the novel's main protagonist, Winston Smith, is tortured by the Thought Police. It's also worth noting that this number mirrors the number of the room in which Trinity makes her debut, 303. The Wachowskis found all kinds of ways to include visual nods to the streaming code that makes up the Matrix. If you pay attention, you can see the code in all kinds of places. One of these moments occurs when Neo arrives late to work. As his boss lectures him about the importance of being on time and threatens to fire him, Neo is distracted by the window washers right outside. If you note the pattern of the soapy suds on the window, you'll see they resemble the Matrix's code. It's further indication that Neo is noticing the illusionary nature of the world and is about to break free from its constraints. It's also interesting that this moment plays out as his boss presents him with two choices that will dictate his future. The Matrix code is also referenced whenever heavy rain makes an appearance. When Neo hops in the car with Trinity and the rest of the crew to meet Morpheus for the first time, the sheets of rain clearly resemble the code. And of course, there's the climactic showdown between Neo and Smith near the end of the Matrix Revolutions. It might be difficult to notice on a smaller TV, but if you pay close attention, you might notice something really awesome. The torrential rain that pours down on the fight is actually Matrix code, an actual representation of the system breaking down. Those who saw the film on an IMAX screen were privy to this particular detail. The Wachowskis are big fans of the 1960s television series The Prisoner. They found a way to fit in a number of references to the show in The Matrix. The Prisoner played with perceptions of reality in the same way the Wachowskis' Matrix Trilogy did. Both of its protagonists have a number as a name. The Prisoner's lead character is known as 6, and Neo is known as the 1. In The Matrix Reloaded, the architect informs Neo that he is the 6th iteration of the 1. There's also the sequence where Neo is making a mad dash to escape Agent Smith at the end of the first Matrix film. You can see an episode of The Prisoner playing on a television. As evidenced by the inclusion of The Prisoner, the Matrix Trilogy is full of references to some of the Wachowskis' favorite movies, TV shows, and even people they admire. For instance, the scene in the first Matrix in which Agent Smith interrogates Mr. Anderson about his record, Michelle McGahee is listed as Neo's mother. McGahee is the name of the woman who served as the film's art director. Seeing as McGahee was overseeing the design of many of these props, we're willing to bet it was her decision to sneak her name into the mix. Roland's hovercraft, the Hammer, is the biggest ship in Zion's fleet. Due to its size, it has a reputation for being difficult to navigate. This makes traversing the many underground tunnels something of a nightmare. Thankfully, a pilot as skilled as Niobe is able to pull this off. What you might not realize is that the Hammer's real name is actually MJOLNIR. That's right, the name of Thor's hammer. And as we all know, MJOLNIR always returns to the hands of its master, a point referenced when the hammer returns to Zion and zaps all the invading sentinels to Kingdom Come with figurative lightning. So here's the real question. Does this mean that The Matrix is part of the MCU? Because we're gonna go ahead and say yes to that one. Yes, it is. But of course, the Wachowskis weren't content to include only one reference to Norse mythology. There are other references sprinkled throughout the trilogy. One of the most interesting ones comes in the trilogy's final chapter, Revolutions. The final fight between Neo and Smith has been dubbed Neo-Damarung, which translates to Twilight of the Gods. This is a direct reference to the Richard Wagner opera The Ring Cycle, which focuses on Ragnarok, the final battle which destroyed the gods and their homes. It's even more telling that these gods were aware that they were sacrificing themselves for humanity, much like Neo was at the conclusion of the Matrix Revolutions. So what we're saying is the real Ragnarok is far less entertaining and hilarious than Taika Waititi's version. Say what you will about The Matrix Reloaded, but even its biggest detractors have to agree on one thing. That freeway chase is pretty fantastic. It features some of the most incredible stunts ever captured on film. Car flips, motorcycles, fistfights, etc. Seriously, this action centerpiece is so awesome, it almost manages to redeem the movie. Almost. One of the most amazing things about this freeway chase is that the film's production team actually built this freeway themselves. It was a little over a mile long with a 19-foot wall built all around it and cost roughly $2.5 million to make. Once the production wrapped, the entire thing was destroyed. In The Matrix Revolution's final scene, the Oracle and the Architect carry out one last conversation while the Oracle sits on a bench in the park. Pay closer attention to the plaque on the bench. It reads, "In memory of Thomas Anderson." Thomas Anderson being Neo's name in The Matrix. It's a nice final touch, honoring Neo's sacrifice to save the world and bridge the gap between humanity and machines. The BURLY BRAWL is the name given to the fight between Neo and the dozens upon dozens of Agent Smiths in The Matrix Reloaded. It's one of the trilogy's major set pieces, and it took an insane number of amazing people behind the scenes to make that work. A large number of stuntmen participated, posing as duplicate Agent Smiths. Going back and rewatching the scene, it's a pleasant surprise to see just how much of the fight plays out practically. Of course, there's an obvious shift to a fully computer-generated environment and players, but while this does reduce the sequence to something of a cartoon, you have to admire the effects team that went above and beyond to pull it off. It was a pretty impressive technical achievement for the time, even if it comes across as dated today. In addition to their clear love of cinema, anime, television, etc., the Wachowskis are obviously big music fans too. One song that makes a few different appearances in the Matrix trilogy is Duke Ellington's I'm Beginning to See the Light. This first plays in the background during Neo's first meeting with the Oracle. The song's placement during a scene in which Neo is making all kinds of new discoveries about his true calling is a brilliant touch on the part of the Wachowskis. And it's no secret that the Wachowskis are really into the whole philosophy thing. They're particularly big fans of Jean Baudrillard's Simulacra and Simulation, a 1981 treatise in which Baudrillard attempted to examine the relationships between reality symbols and society. The Wachowskis were so into this text, they had the entire cast read it in order to prepare for their parts. Keanu Reeves said that he had to read it before he was even allowed to read the script. The book makes an actual appearance in the film. It's the place where Neo stores his secret stash of illegal hacking items. It's also referenced by Morpheus when he says the line, "Welcome to the desert of the real." The Matrix trilogy faced its fair share of challenges during production, as any film production does. One of the biggest came when Gloria Foster, the amazing actress who played the Oracle, passed away during the back-to-back productions of Reloaded and Revolutions. She was replaced by Mary Alice for the trilogy's final chapter. The Wachowskis claim that they had intended to recast this role for Revolutions from the start, as the Oracle needed to change her appearance in order to survive, though they didn't explain why she still chose to live in the same exact apartment, making it easier for Smith to find her. While Mary Alice did a great job taking on the role, Gloria Foster's presence was sorely missed. When it comes to a film as carefully and meticulously detailed as The Matrix, you know you can count on the Wachowskis and their entire incredible crew to deliver the goods. One of the most impressive details has to do with the hacking itself. In fact, The Matrix Reloaded is notable for being one of the first, if not the first, major motion picture to depict legitimate hacking. This moment comes when Trinity enters the Matrix to disable the power grid. She runs Nmap, and the Wachowskis made sure to film the scene in a way that ensured those who in the know would recognize the accuracy. Actual hackers praised the film for its attention to detail. And speaking of hacking, the Wachowskis found other ways to honor this special skill beyond the world of the Matrix films. The Wachowskis released a number of Matrix-related products, including the Animatrix and the video game Enter the Matrix. While it was praised for its use of bullet time, its middling graphics and repetitive gameplay held it back from true greatness. One of the game's more creative segments allowed players to unlock cheats and other little Easter eggs. The only catch, you needed to have some understanding of the world of hacking. If you were able to master this system, you could get all kinds of nifty items, including a katana for your characters. The Matrix Reloaded concluded with a cliffhanger that included Neo tapping into his Matrix powers in the real world. This resulted in his ending up in a coma. At the start of the Matrix Revolutions, he finds himself trapped in a train station, a sort of limbo between the two worlds. He spends the first part of the film trying to escape this strange realm. Note the name of the station: Mobile Avenue. Mobile is an anagram of limbo. Further emphasizing the Wachowskis' intentions here, Neo is literally in a state of limbo. It's also worth noting that in some religions, limbo is considered the middle ground of sorts between heaven and earth. We've only begun to scratch the surface of the many, many wonders contained within the Matrix Trilogy. And would you believe one of those secrets is a sushi recipe? So the now iconic Matrix code was created by the film's production designer, Simon Whitley. When the Wachowskis tasked him with creating this code, Whitley turned to his wife. Turned out Mrs. Whitley was Japanese and was more than willing to help him develop the characters. And where did they turn for the source? A number of Mrs. Whitley's cookbooks. If you pay close attention and you can read Japanese, it's likely that you've got some spectacular recipes for all kinds of amazing cuisine. We already mentioned the many, many Norse mythology references within the Matrix Trilogy, but the Wachowskis didn't stop there. You're probably well aware of the insane number of biblical references too. Aside from the obvious allusions to Jesus presented by the character of Neo, you've also got names like the Nebuchadnezzar, a reference to a biblical king in the name of Morpheus' ship. You also have a number of verses that are referenced. One of these is included on a plaque in the Nebuchadnezzar, which reads, Mark 3, number 11. This is a reference to the Bible verse Mark 3:11, which reads, "And whenever the evil spirits saw him, they fell down before him and cried out, 'You are the Son of God.'" The Matrix's crew is full of incredible talent, but one of the teams that deserves a special note is the stunt team. Chad Stahelski, Keanu Reeves' stunt double, performed a number of remarkable stunts Mr. Reeves simply wasn't capable of pulling off. And one of the most impressive things? Stahelski turned out to be a fantastic filmmaker in his own right. If his name sounds familiar to you, that's probably because he's the director of all 3 John Wick films. It's no wonder those films have such amazing action sequences. Seriously, is there anything that this guy can't do? Give him all the awards. And give us John Wick 4 ASAP. We're getting really deep into the rabbit hole now, but we must press forward. When Agent Smith makes his first appearance in The Matrix Reloaded, he pulls up in a car. We took a closer look at the license plate, and what do you think we found? That's right, another hidden message. The license plate reads IS5416. It's another biblical reference, referring to Isaiah 54:16. This verse reads, "Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work, and I have created the waster to destroy." Behold, I have created the smith? Oh, Wachowskis, you good. The digital world contained within the Matrix is a confusing place. Neo has to contend with a number of strange occurrences that don't make much sense. It's no wonder he spends a good chunk of the first Matrix asking questions. In fact, in the first 45 minutes of The Matrix, Neo has roughly 80 lines of dialogue. A little more than half of those lines are questions. Just about 1 question per minute of screen time. Can you really blame him though? I mean, we still have questions about what exactly went on in this trilogy. Switch, one of the members of Morpheus' crew who meets his demise early on, never really got his chance to truly shine, but even with this short screen time, he managed to make an impression. No easy task. One of the most interesting terms Switch used is when he refers to Neo as a copper top. This is actually an early reference to the fact that all those humans trapped within the Matrix are batteries used to power the machines. And of course, this is further emphasized a few scenes later when Morpheus holds up a copper top battery as he's explaining Neo's predicament. It's difficult to notice any particular details that take place during the Matrix Revolution's climactic battle scene in the rain between Neo and Smith. At a certain point, the two of them take to the air, colliding and exchanging punches while grappling in the sky. Eventually, Smith gets the upper hand and tackles Neo into the ground, creating a massive crater. This crater's location is the corner of Pitt, Hunter, and O'Connell Streets in Sydney, Australia. And what's significant about this street corner? It's the same location where Neo made his infamous payphone call in the final scene of the first Matrix. It seems appropriate to close things out with a special mention regarding the final shot of this trilogy. Throughout the films, the colors within the Matrix have been muted with a sickly green hue, but during this final shot as the Oracle sits in the park, the colors have changed. This is the first time we see real, untainted color in any of the films. It's a touching way to send things off, indicating that finally, everything is okay. Or at least it will be, until the events of The Matrix 4 roll around. And that's that. We have reached the end of the rabbit hole. Are there any other things that you noticed about the Matrix trilogy that we might have missed? What are some of your favorite hidden Easter eggs? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe to our channel. That way you stay up to date on all of our great content.